Hello, and welcome to the Digital Workspace Works podcast. I'm Ryan Purvis, your host, supported by our producer Heather Bicknell. In this series, you'll hear stories and opinions from experts in the field, stories from the front lines, the problems they face and how they solved them, the areas they focused on from technology, people and processes, to the approaches they took that will help you to get to the grips with the digital workspace inner workings.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I did a recording with a friend of mine, John, who you'll see his recording now in the pending folder. He's the guy who really convinced me over time to go the Apple route. So we had quite a good discussion about a few things today. So yeah, it's been a good day. I'm still fighting a cold, so if I sound a bit gravelly, it's because of that. But other than that, all good. How are things with you?
Yeah, pretty good. Nothing, just typical busyness, but otherwise, yeah, not too much. Nothing to complain about.
That's good. Well, I always say don't complain because no one cares.
Yeah, I try to limit that. It's also just that you get stuck in it and it's not fun. So.
Well, I was going to say there's science that says if you complain, everything becomes a problem. Whereas if you focus on the positives, everything becomes a positive. So, I'm not complaining. So.
Yeah, the mind is so powerful. I know I've done some retail work in the past, and sometimes I felt like people were getting really just caught up in some drama, or there was just some unhappiness. I was like, everybody, like, we're here to, we're making cupcakes. Like, this is not, we're not doing open heart surgery. Like, we're not in a battle zone. Like, we can take it down a notch and remember, like, have some perspective here. Like, we don't need to be so stressed out about this.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember working for an organization, and I mean, being in IT, and it's a large bank, and obviously there's lots of transactions going through and whatever. And I remember one of the senior people writing a message to the sort of point of view that everything we do is life and death. And that was almost the day. I wouldn't say it's exactly that day, but that was almost the point where I said, you know what, I don't want to work here anymore, because. And I guess it's everyone's got their thing, but I mean, work's important. It gives you a purpose. You should work to enjoy it as much as it's not always going to be enjoyable. It's not it's how you approach it. And I'd be guilty of this for years, where I wasn't the happiest person at work, and I let the work decide that as opposed to me decide my approach to it. But unless you actually have got someone's life in your hands, it's not going to be life and death. So, I mean, an airline pilot, a doctor, those sorts of roles, those are kind of closer to life and death, firefighters, policemen, etc. But a corporate worker inside a corporate business, unless it's got something to do with, again, cancer research or whatever it is, I really argue it's not life and death. It's important probably, but, banks go down, they still come back up again. Lloyd's Bank went down and came back up again. No one, in theory, no one died. I mean, I don't know to that level of detail, but it does set a precedence if that's how people think of things.
Yeah, it's almost like too big of it's too stressful of a kind of idea to be helpful. I mean, of course, you want to know why the work you're doing matters, but it needs to be within the realm of something that's reasonable and actually motivating. Like, we work because we help people do X, right? Like, our mission is that we're making X better for our customers. And that should be, in my opinion, kind of what compels you.
And I was going to say, yeah, because the converse is you don't want to have someone that, doesn't take, there's a level of seriousness to your work. And you're right. It comes back to motivation and purpose and why you're doing it. It's one of the reasons why I joined Hilo is the why. And you should do a good job while you're doing that. But if the why is not clear, it doesn't matter what you say. That motivation is not going to be there. So, yeah, I mean, I think your point's very true.
So tell me about this glucose tool.
Yeah. Oh, so I've been looking at this for a while. The levels thing. So this is a so if you ever do sort of follow guys like Ben Greenfield or Dave Asprey or any of those sorts of what they call them self quantifiers, looking for the edge.
Yeah.
So this levels thing is actually designed and built by an ex rocket scientist. And I say that tongue in cheek. I think he worked for NASA and left NASA to pursue this. So this is a continuous glucose monitor. And the reason why I'm keen on it is I've got the Oura Ring, which gives me some information. But the thing that I really want to fix is my diet. And knowing what affects you negatively, and glucose is a good indicator for that, is what I want to think. But I don't want to go and get a normal glucose monitor. I want something that someone has already done all the hard work to turn into a product, which is what this is. And the thing is, I can't get it because I'm not in the US, and at the moment they're only focusing on the US market. But what happens basically is you get the product and you also pay a subscription, and they take your data, and then they look at what you're eating and how it affects your biochemistry, and then obviously tell you which foods to avoid. And what I'm trying to get out of this is I know there's certain foods that I shouldn't eat, and if I do eat them, I get this sort of lull or downward thing. But often that food, when I say I know there's food, I just don't know which food it is. So if I have a salad, there might be something in the salad I shouldn't eat, but I don't know if it's the peppers, if it's the lettuce, is it the tomatoes, is it the carrots, is it the onions, is it the feta cheese that's giving me the thing. So it's a kind of a self-quantifying thing. So I was going to hopefully use your address to have the device sent to you and then ship it to me.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Is it like okay, so I'm moving in July, so I wanted to talk to you because I couldn't tell. Is it a pre-order or do you know when it's shipping? Because
that's the problem. It is a pre-order. You're on a list, and if I remember correctly from the thing I was listening to, you're on a list to pre-order, and then that queue moves. They kind of add people they move them through the list like every month, but it's not a set number. Sometimes they'll put 10 people, sometimes they'll put 100. Mm-hmm. It depends, I guess, on how much product they've built at that time. So I could do it today, and they could ship it next year, or I could do it today and they could ship it next week. So it's not urgent by any means. I just the thing popped up again. I was like, I must really do something about this.
Well, if you think it's going to be a while, I am moving into the house we just bought. So presumably I'll be there for a bit. So probably that address makes more sense.
Yeah, that would make more sense. Yeah, that's cool. No, then I'll when you're settled, we'll do it. Like I said, there's no rush. I just wanted to sort of put that on my radar to get it going.
Gotcha. Do you know what it looks like? I'm thinking like, I had friends growing up, type 1 diabetic. They had like a little, square, like almost like a beeper kind of thing attached to them at all times that, had a needle going through. Is it that much equipment?
I think it's very similar. And that's one of the things that I was trying to dig into before I sent you the link. They used to have a video on how it worked, but the video's gone now. So I don't know if they've changed the product. But yeah, in theory, it's something you strap on. It's it's not thick, like 2 centimeters thick. It's very thin, and it's kind of malleable, and then it goes around your waist, and then the needles go into you. They're not all the way in. They're just enough to get the blood, and then you wear that the whole day. You don't wear it every day either. You wear it when you need to wear it. So, but I'm on the mailing list now, so I'll see as it goes, and I'll let you know when I pull the trigger on it.
That's extremely, extremely quantified.
Well, if you think about it, we're going that route anyway. I was talking with a guy yesterday. He's involved with the NHS, he was asking me sort of, what would you do with the NHS? I said the biggest problem with the NHS is it's reactive. It doesn't. They don't treat conditions proactively. They sort of tell you to go home, take 2 paracetamol, and call me in the morning. Whereas in South Africa, we're very proactive. So like my GP gets heavily involved. He won't let you go till he's sorted it out. He'll refer you straight to a specialist that day. You would see someone within 24 hours. There's a very big focus on getting it out, getting the symptoms tackled while they're still early before they become serious. Whereas the NHS is very much about keeping you cheap. Because most things, I suppose, could be dealt with paracetamol and rest. But they almost, by pushing you away and not doing the investigation, you could have a serious condition which becomes even more serious because now you haven't been treated proactively. And we're talking about all this like the behavioral things, and I think we've talked about Vitality and Discovery, which is a medical aid here in South Africa and in the UK and in the US, where they drive you with behavioral things to improve your health. So, like my Apple Watch is free because I walk 12,500 steps a day. So I get points for that. If I go and see a dentist, if I get a flu vaccination, if I go to gym, if I do 30 minutes of hard exercise a day, I get points for all those things. And that drives me to being a healthier person. In South Africa, it's a lot more mature than the UK. I don't know what the US is like. But here, if I go for a cholesterol check, a blood pressure check, a smoker's check, HIV test, there's one other one I can't think of right now. I get points for all those things. And then once I get to platinum, a whole lot of stuff. Like there's all these reward partners, like buying cross trainers or flying on certain airlines. I get huge discounts, like 40, 50% discount, 75% discount on active gear. So like Nike, Adidas, whatever, I'll get like 75% off because my status is high. And all they're doing really is saying, if you're a healthy person, you're not going to come into the hospital, so we're not going to have to pay for you. So it's cheaper to incentivize you with a partner than it is for you to come to see a specialist. And it's things like movies as well. I mean, movies here are about 10 in pound terms, 10 to 15 pounds a ticket. But if you're with Discovery, which is the Vitality of the UK, we'll pay like £2 to go watch a movie. And our cinemas here are world class. I mean, I haven't found cinemas, barring maybe one or two, that are as good from seats and screens and sound and amenities and all that kind of stuff, food and all that. So it's good behaviors, which leads to healthy people, which leads to they make more money. I mean, they're always profitable, but as a member, we get good value out of it. So.
Yeah, I know. I've heard of some of that in the US, just from within people's health insurance plans, but I don't know how common it is. I don't think I know anyone who has that. I know like Microsoft and other big tech companies will do like a health. You get whatever it is. I don't know if it's $500 or they give you a stipend for this is for health, so you can use this to pay for your gym or an Apple Watch or something health related. And that's something a lot of companies, maybe not a lot, but it's something that it's one of those amenities companies will tack on, like a gym membership. Is that common in the UK as well?
Yeah, so you not like gym's not common, but you'd get your usual things like pension. If you're in a big corporate, you'll get medical. Those sort of things.
Well, those in the US are a little bit more. We'll just give you a gym membership.
I mean, some of them do. You see, what I find interesting about the gym in the UK versus South Africa, for example, is the UK's got a lot of small brands of gyms. So you have like a big one, which would be Virgin Active, for example, or Nuffield. But then you have a lot of small ones like 24/7. What's the other one that's near us? Anyway, you got a whole bunch of them. So sometimes a gym membership doesn't make sense because you live like where I live in Horsham. There's no Virgin Active nearby, and my office, there's no Virgin Active near there. So giving me a gym membership to Virgin Active actually doesn't help me, because it actually creates more pressure for me to go to gym. So you don't go. So you don't often get those unless, like when I was at JP, they had a gym on the 7th floor that you could do, and UBS was the same. We had a gym in the new building, so you could sign up at Nuffield, get a good deal, and then you can go to any Nuffield, but your home gym is inside the building. South Africa, Virgin is the biggest gym brand. Planet Fitness is the second biggest, and I think Planet Fitness is in America as well.
It is, yeah.
Now that's another one that if I sign up through my medical aid, the price goes to almost nothing for me. I think I was paying 800 Rand a month, so that's about call it 40 pounds, $50-$60 for both Kirsten and I. On Discovery, I pay about half of that.
Those are both low gym prices.
now, if you look at what I was paying for my Virgin Active, my Nuffield when I was at UBS, and I was on a corporate rate, I was paying about £100 a month just for myself to go on that rate. And the full price for my gym was, I think, 200 a month. Now, it was a very fancy, had all the facilities, all the cool stuff. But if I was paying for myself, there's no ways I would have paid for it. I'd go to the local gym down the road, which is about $30 a month. But then they don't have things like saunas and steam rooms and ice pools and all that kind of stuff, which is what I was actually keen on. Now with COVID, none of that stuff matters, because no one can use that stuff, because it's all, whatever. But why I was bringing all that up is that I think so when I got sick last week, I had a stomach bug, and I went to the GP, and I wrote down all my symptoms, but I also took screenshots of all my aura data to show him how my body temperature changed. And he was completely blown away that I knew so much about that. I said, look, you can see here, I was feeling ill at 3:00, and my body temperature had risen by half a degree. Now, half a degree on its own means nothing, but that it carried on going up in sort of a, not a 30-degree angle, probably about a 45-degree angle to midnight, and I was at 37 and a bit. That showed him that I had an infection. And then when I took the screenshots, I didn't take the screenshots again at the next day at 4:00. But when I looked at it again at 4:00, my temperature had come back down to normal. But you almost saw the 24-hour bug do the actual up and down piece. As I started feeling better, and the medication I took started working, the impact was there. And I see that kind of stuff, not necessarily real time to the medical fraternity, but when you go in with something, having some history of what are your normals would be really important to decisions that they make about your health.
I don't remember if it was the Oura ring or if it was like a specially developed ring, but I remember sort of towards the beginning of COVID, one of the things that some of the premier athletes are doing, I think this came up in basketball, but they were giving them rings for like early COVID. They were trying to use it as like an early COVID detection device.
That was Aura. The other thing that changes is your heart rate variability. That goes up and down. So mine also changed like a second, and it was that because I actually signed up for the research thing. So all my data is going into that as well. So it's definitely, it's the right thing to do. It's the same as I do a thing with vitamin D. I've got an app on my phone called what's it called? D-Minder. And when I go for a walk outside, it tracks I just turn on that I'm walking outside, and I sort of say how much clothing I'm wearing, like how much cover I've got on, and then what the cloud cover is, and then it calculates my UV exposure, and that also works out my IUs of vitamin D, and that also goes into a research thing. And I can honestly say, since we've been back in South Africa, my mood has changed. My wife always says my mood changes when I'm here. And I said to the reason why my mood changes is because I'm getting so much more sunlight than when I do in the UK. And I think that's, I've not, it's called SAD, sensory, whatever it's called.
Seasonal affective disorder.
That's it. And so when we do ever get back, I will be buying those Philip lights that generate vitamin D inside the house, because I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, living in the north, I think I supplement. I just supplement with vitamin D. It's really hard to get enough from the sun, and then even in the summer, I'm always wearing sunscreen. So, yeah, I mean, it's an important vitamin. Easy to get low on and not really be aware of it. But the app is super interesting because you always wonder, like, you know you can get it from the sun, but how do you really know how much you're getting?
Well, and this is the interesting thing. So you can get it from the sun, but you only get it at certain times of the day. Because if you think about, like, you're in Northern Hemisphere now, so you're in the summer months. I'm in winter. So the Earth's rotating. It's got a slight tilt to it. So while it's spinning, and depending on where you are in your seasons, your angle of attack for the sun will change. So in summer here, you can get enough UV from 7 in the morning till 6 in the evening. But in winter, that window is so small right now. It's like 9:45 till 2 o'clock. So there's no point going for a walk in the sun before or after that, because you're actually not getting any vitamin D. Your body's not generating anything because your angle is about 30 degrees. So, like, if I go for my walk, like today, for example, I've had back-to-backs the whole middle of the day. I actually moved a meeting to later in the day so I can go for my walk in the sun, because if I go after our call now, it's too late. The sun's already out of range. Even though it's bright outside, the generation's too low. You're only getting about 1 UV or 2 UVs, which is too low.
And is that something you see in the app, that it gives you a time range?
Yeah, so I'll tell you right now. So I've got 3 minutes left. I'm going to put this up to the camera so you can see. So you see that you can see the sun on a dial, on a half moon thing, and then below that's a button, and below that it says you've got 3 minutes left of vitamin D. And the sun is right now at current angle is 30 degrees. So literally it's going to move in 3 minutes and it'll be out of range. And we're going up to solstice now, which is in 12 days, which means we're now on the other side we'll be the other side of that curve. So the Earth's going to kind of, as it spins around, it's going to go to the right side for us, going back towards summer. So that window will get bigger and bigger again. Yeah, it's fascinating. Actually, I've been talking with a friend of mine about getting a little sensor that measures, because this is a pain in the ass. I don't like it frustrates me that I have to go press a button in an app to go measure this stuff. So what I want to do is get a circuit with a sensor, with a little battery pack, and a little memory card. And probably, as I build on this, it'll get more and more thing. But basically, I wanted to measure, as I walk outside, I wanted to measure how much UV I'm getting. So at the end of the day, I can say, okay, today I got, 60 minutes worth. Because you don't count like driving from the house to the shops, then getting out of the car, walking across the parking lot into the shops, then walking back outside. Now that's only 3 or 4 minutes, and that's kind of the goal. It's just bonus really. But on a hot day, you might spend the whole day outside. You want that to be automatically measured. You don't want to sort of stop and start the app every time you come in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be able to get, the other thing is the calculating cloud cover. It's very subjective. It's got like a dial where you pull backwards and forwards. Yeah. So if I go outside now, it's like, yeah, the clouds are there. It says thick, but these aren't really thick. These are kind of thin. Is it 80%? Is it 40% cover?
Needs an image recognition component where it can analyze the sky.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem. Hey, stop building a whole AI solution just to measure one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Take a picture of the sky when you walk outside, and then it's constantly working out how much coverage you got.
Your phone battery just tanks.
Well, it's funny you say that. So I played golf for my birthday, and I had it on the whole time. And my battery went from 100% at the start of the round to 20% by the end of the round. So that's in 4 hours. I basically killed it. So you got to be, and that's the other reason for getting a little sensor, because a little sensor is probably the size of a quarter. and then you need to put a battery pack on it, so you get another quarter battery pack, and you need just to have the memory card thing. Because I actually don't care. I don't need the data real time. I don't need it every day. But I just want, if the battery lasts 30 days or however long it lasts, at the end of that, I just want to plug in the memory card and get the data.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you need the real time is to know that you haven't got enough. And that's what this is quite good as well, because it's cumulative. So it'll have the reporting. I'll show it to you again. So you can see there, so make sure I'm tilting the right way. So you can see what I've got today, what I've got for the last 30 days, the last whatever, 90 days. I still take a vitamin D supplement for days like today where it's a bit cloudy outside and I haven't been outside as much. But the next thing, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted the levels thing, is something like that to measure your blood markers.
Mm-hmm.
Because your blood tells you quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's I'm curious about that, because it is, it's not, at least where I'm at, it's not inexpensive if you wanted to get a blood panel, to really check things out. That's not generally, something you can just casually go and do. You'd be making sort of an investment to go get everything checked out.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when my daughter went into the hospital, we were chatting to the doctor, and he'd worked in the UK for a bit, and he actually sent me a paper that did a comparison of medical costs per procedure and versus quality. And South Africa comes up pretty high on that, which we've seen. I mean, for what my daughter costs to stay in the hospital for 3 days, I haven't got the final bill yet, but it was relatively inexpensive for the treatment that she got, versus what I've seen at the NHS, where I've seen the bills for what I got there, and I'm going, holy moly, this is expensive. It just doesn't make sense. So to go get a blood panel here would probably cost me $20, not even. I'd have to pay for the doctor's time to write the script to go get it done, so I might pay $40, but it's still not prohibitive.
For NHS, you're not directly footing that bill, right? That's all covered.
No, so NHS comes out of the taxpayer's pot.
Right.
But like I had private medical there. And the reason why you have private medical is to jump the queue. If you're waiting, the only ones that get priority really are kids. And I think if you're over a certain age, I think if you're over 80, you get priority on procedures. But typically you're in the waiting queue. So if you go private, then you're paying a huge amount per month. But then if I want to go and see I had my knee done, I saw the guy on the Wednesday, had the surgery on the Friday. I had a friend of mine, he saw the guys for his shoulder in 2018, and they did his shoulder in 2021. And for 3 years, he's basically suffered with a problem with his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it depends on your values, where health is. As much as I pay, it's a grudge purchase every month to pay it, because I pay it myself for the medical, in the UK at least. We've benefited from it. In South Africa, you've got no choice really. There is a government hospital system, but you don't have to take a chance. You'd rather pay private, and that's why I say private is cost effective, because everyone who's got a decent salary has got medical cover.
But there is like a government system that covers everyone who can't afford private.
Yeah, but as my helper says, she's scared of getting sick because she doesn't want to go to the government hospital. And there was talk for a while of a national insurance for the health service, like the NHS. Unfortunately, the problem you have here is the corruption. The question is, will they steal the money as the government, which is a very political discussion. But from and what some families will do, depending on how wealthy they are, is they will actually put their domestic kids on their policies, so they get medical cover as part of the family up to a certain age, and they'll just pay it. Like if Ellen, if we lived here, we'd have cover for her and her son. It would be, she's as critical to our family as any other member of the family. and same for her son. So it's just how people operate here slightly differently to other. I suppose as people, different cultures, different countries will do different things.
Yeah, I know we're way out of scope for the podcast, but it is just interesting to learn. You're pretty much everything in detail, like the little details that I know about South Africa, has come from you. So
well, I think it's all relevant because it's relevant to our digital nomad sort of story in the sense that if we were here for a short period of time, 2-month holiday, a very different mindset to now we're here for 6 months, maybe a bit longer. So our decisions were slightly different. I mean, the irony for me, not irony, we worried about this, hence why we did it. But, when we came out here, we were on travel insurance that only lasted 90 days. When we got the sense we're going to be a bit longer, we took out insurance, medical insurance. And there's a waiting period of 3 months. And to the day, my daughter got sick on the 1st of June. That was the end of the waiting period. So if she got sick on the 31st, they wouldn't have covered any of her stuff, whereas she was sick on the 1st, so they covered all of it. And this sort of feeds into, if you're going to do this kind of stuff, you need to prepare appropriately. And as I say, we've benefited from knowing the country and the culture to what to do. So it's worked out for us.
And are you dual citizens?
Yeah. So when we my grandma was born in Kent, so I had an ancestral visa. So you got to do 5 years of living in the UK, and then you get a permanent residence, and then 1 more year, and you get your passport. So if we wanted to get back to the UK, we can go back to the UK. It's not like we're worried about that. So we had friends that were here where she's the wife at least is going through her 5-year claim on the permanent residence. So she's got to be very careful how long she spends out the country, because they'll make a restart on that. So those are things to bear in mind. And one of the reasons why we kept our passports is, besides a pride factor, is if I go into certain countries, it's actually better to go in on a South African passport than it is to go in on a British passport. Like Turkey, for example. So we're talking now about how do we get back to the UK and I'm still able to work. And we're looking at the countries that are, because they've got this traffic light system, we're looking at the countries that are either amber or green, where our either passport works for us, that we can get into it and then still get out if we need to. Because if we need to get back to the UK, I can go to the UK embassy and say we need to get back, and they'll help us get back because we're citizens. Alrighty. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah. Talk to you on Wednesday, or will you be available then?
Yeah, probably. Should be fine. I'll drop you a text if we're not.
Okay.
Okay.
Talk to you then.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. Heather Bicknell is our producer and editor. Thank you, Heather, for your hard work on this episode. Please subscribe to the series and rate us on iTunes or the Google Play Store. Follow us on Twitter @the DWW Podcast. The show notes and transcripts will be available on the website www.digitalworkspace.works. Please also visit our website www.digitalworkspace.works and subscribe to our newsletter. And lastly, if you found this episode useful, please share with your friends or colleagues.